So speaking of which, again, I know you guys are very protective and rightfully so of your data. So I won't ask for necessarily specifics, but I mean, you guys do have access to a lot of incredible data in regards to link building, outreach, cold outreach. I mean, is there anything that's kind of caught your attention over the last year in terms of trends that are bubbling up? Any sort of link building, I guess, tips that you could share with people that you guys can kind of anonymize from your data? Have you guys seen any sort of trends pop up over the last couple of years in regards to what's working, what's not working?
Yeah, I've seen in terms of well, I've seen one of the trends, not in terms of what's working, what's not. What I've seen one of the biggest trends in the last year with agencies, they're becoming publishers. So basically, they're bringing on clients and they're helping those clients build better business or bigger businesses, and they're realizing, why don't I do this for myself? So more and more, going back 3-4 years ago when we spoke with agencies, it's like, how do I get the next customer? How do I get the next client? How do we grow as an agency? To what's been happening in the last year, we're still going to have some of our agency clients for that revenue stream, but we're starting our own web properties in all kinds of niches. And I feel that these agencies are now looking for more of a long-term play, right? Because in an agency world, I mean, it depends what your contract looks like, right? Some agencies will sign a customer and put them on a 3-month contract. Some do months to months. At best, you're going to put somebody in the 1-year contract, given you're doing a good job and you're maintaining that customer. But if you build your own web property and it takes you a year to get it running, and then you get that recurring revenue. It's all about, the SaaS model is a really cool model because you have that recurring revenue. Even if your company is even maintaining things, you're still growing, right? So I think that's the trends personally I've seen, is that a lot of these agencies are moving in that direction. And not even, and I also feel like there's a little bit more movement now with buying and selling sites, right? So like, guys at Authority Hackers, they're always talking about, how do you grow a new site, and then ultimately they always talk about, selling, just picking up. Now you have some revenue, you can now go and pick up a couple of new domains, spend 20, 30, 40, 50K, and get something that's been, around for 4 years, 5 years, and I'm going to dump some money into it, get some more links, and next year I'm going to start seeing some revenue growth, and then sell that one being a bigger business. So I've seen that trend. And Michael, in terms of like tactics and things like that, what have you seen?
Well, okay. In terms of tactics, not to say anything out loud that I shouldn't be saying, but I'll just say everything still works. Okay. I've been in this business since 2003. Links, you need links to rank for competitive keywords. Maybe you don't need them to rank for some super long tail bullshit keyword, but for anything super competitive or even mildly competitive, you need links to rank, and links are being built. Of course, it depends on who is your client or who you're working with. If you're working with, let's say, a larger brand that's acquiring other brands, their link building, they're not necessarily engaging in true link building. It's more about link reclamation and converting mentions into links, or migrating. If one hotel chain acquires another hotel chain, all of a sudden you need to migrate or move, I don't know, 5 million links from 5 properties here to one larger one here, a larger brand there. So it's more of a it's more of a link reclamation and link management campaign, versus if you're working with maybe your own web properties or smaller clients. Of course, it's going to be link acquisition, and there it depends on whether it's local SEO or more broad and competitive keywords that you're looking at. But everything still works, and people are building links. As far as what campaigns people are running, I mean, we're kind of, it's interesting to see what's happening right now with Corona. Not, I don't want to spend much time talking about what's in the news right now, but still, I think ultimately SEOs are very creative people. We know how to beat the system, if you will, or how to take measures to make sure we succeed in what we need to get accomplished. And so, yeah, we're seeing, of course, a lot of home related keywords right now. And, I think a lot of people looked at their email templates and tweaked them to make sure their outreach is relevant but right now a lot of niches are seeing a huge uptick. If you're in a prepper or survival niches, those are just blowing up right now. If home gardening, vitamins, remote work, online learning, making money online. So I think the message here is you have to, if you're an agency, you have to make sure you are well diversified with your clients. If you've been relying on a single niche of, I don't know, roofers or whatever, local SEO clients, you might not be in the best shape right now. But if you have a wide, or of course, if you're specializing in just travel, it's probably not the best moment in time for the travel industry right now. But if you have your clients across the board, smaller companies and larger companies, if you don't have your eggs in one basket, I think you're going to be just fine. And
go ahead.
Yeah,
I was going to say there's just a bunch of questions coming in from Slack and Facebook right now about like specific link building tactics that are working right now for businesses on a tight budget. What type of link should they focus on? And just like to me, I have a general statement for that, kind of just off the back of what you said, Michael. Like, I haven't updated our link building training in almost 3.5 years now because there's no new tactics. Like they're all still the same thing. To me, the only thing for some of these questions out there, just to specify them, are like, you just have to know what works in that industry, in that space. That comes with testing, that comes with a little strategy, a little bit of research, look at what competitors are doing, see what type of links that they're getting, and just try to replicate that. I think the biggest thing to me that's changed since I've really, like, we're still doing outreach. We're still using Pitchbox. I actually set up a campaign last week. But to me, the biggest change is that, like, you just really have to know who's on the other end of that email. Because people have, just like anything in this space, people just abuse it. They see people like myself talk about outreach, all these other, people talking about what works and stuff, and they take it and they beat that shit to death. So I think you have to take what you see, personalize it, make a change, and then spend much more time up front. Meaning, the prospecting to me is by far the most important thing that we're doing right now. We're spending way more time like really bucketing who we're sending outreach emails to. Like, we have this WordPress plugin that came out. It's a WordPress form builder. Kind of started building a while ago, just pushed it out just because we spent so much on it. And we have an offshore guy right now who's just doing outreach to YouTubers, trying to get us to do different types of reviews, this and that. And like, I'm spending hours with him just going through these prospecting lists to be like, hey, we don't want to send the same email that we're sending to this person as we're sending to these people, because like they're talking about different stuff. And like, you just have to really know who's on the other end and spend a little bit more time upfront prospecting, tagging, and categorizing those people. And then, you can fire off the emails, but just make sure that you know who you're talking to. And to me, that pitch and that prospecting and that segmentation up front of, again, like knowing who is there, who you're talking to, makes all the difference in the world. Aside from that, it's all the same, dude. Like, it doesn't matter if you're doing guest posting, if you're doing resource page building, link reclamation, like, just know who you're talking to. That's it. And then the software is just there to help you to speed shit up. And that's all there really is to it. Like, people are always looking for new tactics. I'm like, the internet isn't making up new types of links. Like, they just are what they are. You just have to understand, again, who you're talking to, what they find valuable, and how you can supply that value to them. And that's it. Whether you're doing link building, PR, cold outreach for sales, for influencers, whatever it is that you're doing, it's all the same shit. And again, I think probably, I don't want to speak for you guys, but a lot of headaches you guys probably deal with is people trying to use the software and automation to cover up for the fact that they're not putting enough time and effort into that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why is my outreach working? It's like, because you're sending a piece of shit pitch to 1 million people. Like, what do you think is going to happen? So yeah, I mean, like, guys, there's no new tactics. Like, the stuff that I have in there, it is what it is. It's not changing, and I haven't updated it for a purpose, because what am I going to do? Just record the same videos over? Like, it's the same thing. You know, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We're just communicating with people. That's all that really
Right.
is. You know.
Exactly. No, I think the two most important, there's two words. It's segmentation and personalization.
Yeah.
And you've said it, like, you know, it's important to be able to, it's important to put in the time to segment the list, whether you start with sort of the idea, all right, so I'm going to start my prospecting in a specific category, and spend less time post, right, that process. Or I'm just going to try to go and find, no matter who it is, just get this, you know, really big list, build this really big list, and then dive in and start segmenting and understanding who these people are and how to communicate to them. And then the next step is personalization. And I'm not talking about personalization, just personalizing or drafting every single email for every contact that's you on your list. That's not scalable, right? For some it works, right? And also talk about segmentation, talk about your high value opportunities to kind of your mid-level stuff, and then low-level stuff. And you might not want to go for the low-level stuff, or you might be just like if you're launching a brand new e-commerce store and you have a product that or you're just starting out, maybe you want to isolate the super influencer, super influential list and just leave it for later, gain some momentum, and then come back to them, right? Don't burn those bridges right away. But it's segmentation and personalization. And on the personalization side, if you're able to segment, let's say you get a list of we call them opportunities. You got a list of opportunities. You break them down into whatever, 5 groups, let's say. And then you ask yourself, if I was in that group, if I was that person, that guy, that girl in that group, how would I want to be communicated to? What kind of things will trigger my attention? And then write that template. And then you execute your outreach, whether it's manual, automatic, doesn't matter, right? But you're going to have your template, because it's not scalable to write every single email. So you're going to have your template. You're going to have a little bit of personalization for each contact. And if you can scale that, that's great. And then plug in that personalization data into your template. Talking about personalization, I mean, some agencies that we work with, they have lots of customers, or they have a customer that has a huge demand. They have a big appetite for lots of links. How do you scale the personalization part? That's hard, right? So you may want to talk a lot about that also in your training. Outsource some of that part,
Yeah.
right? So working with someone overseas, in Philippines, for example, you assign them work before your day ends. They start their day when you go to sleep. They do their work. They prep a lot of that personalization. You wake up in the morning and it's like magic. You have 100, 1,000 opportunities ready for you to go. Review the data and start sending out emails. You want to spend your time on building those relationships. You want to spend time on segmenting, building out that sort of the prep work of building out those templates, understanding what kind of personalization data you need, and then assigning that work to your personalizers to handle a lot of that. And then you have the full package ready for you to start sending out emails and actually managing the conversations and building those relationships.
Yeah, dude,
and I think that's the scale part.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we're on that too, I know you guys have done like a lot of really cool things with the product in terms of automation. You guys have kind of told me in passing over the past year and a half, 2 years, when I've seen you guys, about some of the things that some people are doing. I mean, I guess now's your time. I would love to hear personally, like, what are some of the automation things that you guys have done with Pitchbox? And also, I know that you guys opened up your API over the last year or two, and you guys have some people doing some cool stuff with it. I would love to hear more about it. Again, the stuff that you're able to share with us. I think also, just for context for people, just to give the depth of what they can actually do with your tool, So
on the automation, one of the I think very smart moves that we did was to integrate with Zapier, right? Because that really opens us up to, I don't know what they integrate with now, 1,000 plus different systems. So we've seen our customers use Zapier with Pitchbox to connect their content production process, right? So an example of that would be, you're doing guest posting, you have someone responding with saying, yes, I'm interested, let's identify the type of content we have to develop, we're developing for you, and that needs to go into the team who's going to be handling the content. So you press something inside Pitchbox, or you trigger that event somehow, and that's being sent off into whatever your system of choice, right? So we see some people using Trello for their workflow of content. You know, the first column being, you know, content required, then an editor or a writer picks it up. Then you have the post editing process, and then once it's ready, it hits the last column. That's another Zapier trigger, and that goes back into Pitchbox and maybe sends a link or uploads a Google Doc with the content now for the outreach manager to actually say, here's the content, now it's ready to go. We've seen people integrate with Trello. We've seen people are great with Asana, Airtable, on and on and on, right? A lot of the different tools. And for some, and we're planning on extending our Zapier integration to have more actions, more triggers. We've even, one of the things that I did as sort of a test, I wanted to basically create that full circle with emailing. So an email comes in, I want to identify whether that email is let's say somebody's out on vacation, right? And they have an autoresponder that comes in, I'm on vacation until March 25th or something like that. So I would take that would be a trigger. The email comes in, I would send it to Zapier to Monkey Learn. In Monkey Learn, I would do a little bit of work. I wrote a couple of scripts. It extracts dates. It extracts some signals for me to tell me that is an out of office response. I get the date. I realize that it's March 25th, and I send it back into Pitchbox with a task. Basically, follow up 2 days after they return. And I don't want to hit them the next day because they probably have coming back to the office with 150 emails in their inbox. Give it 2 days plus. And also archive that email, snooze that email so that I don't see that email in my inbox, right? Because we're trying to practice inbox 0 in Pitchbox. Snooze that email so I don't see it and pop it back into my inbox, 2 days later after they come back. And it took me half an hour, 40 minutes to put together. And again, it was just like a test. It was initially when we just launched Zapier, and it was so cool. And I actually, till this day, I have this thing running. We're working on something that's, you're not going to need to use Zapier and Monkey Learn, other things. That Pitchbox will do that for you automatically. That's coming. That type of machine learning or AI coming soon, along with some other things. But just to kind of iterate that Zapier truly gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can do a lot of things in order to help yourself connect with other systems. In terms of our API, we're working actually on a newer version API that's going to give you ability to really truly control entire Pitchbox system without you ever logging in, from setting up campaigns to sending out emails to managing responses to running reports and all that stuff. So remember we talked a little bit about agencies building their own, managing their own web properties. A lot of them are now bringing in developers. So a lot of those agencies where they didn't really have developers before, they only had the outreach people, the content people, the on-page SEO guys. Now they're bringing in some developers. So they're coming back to us and saying, we'd like to get access to that API. And actually, because we have the skill set in-house, we'd like to take advantage of that. So yes, with the Pitchbox API, you're going to be able to do a lot of cool stuff.
And I remember, I think, Michael, you told me someone was doing some cool stuff with unlinked mentions, where they had synced it up, I think, to mention.com, where they was pulling through their unbranded mentions and then auto firing off emails to those people for link inclusion. It's pretty amazing, man, the shit that you can do if you think outside the box a little bit. I would love to see you guys publish those in a blog post too, because that's the thing too, is that I think there's so much cool stuff that you can do with it, but a lot of them are just kept in pockets of people. Assuming those people would let you publish those things or credit for whatever, I would love to see those, because it's just super interesting. I may never set them up, but it's so dope to hear about. I mean, you guys have access to so much. Again, I know you guys, keep a lot of it close to heart because you have to legally. But some of the stuff that you're able to share, man, I mean, there's some people out there, you see the people like myself who are just on camera because that's just what I know how to do. But there's so many people that are not on camera because they don't have to be, that are really doing some of the best stuff. And if you guys were ever able to share that stuff, I know I would be highly interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Some agencies, although it's hard to scale that way, but some agencies maintain very close communication with their clients in terms of what kind of links they're going after. So they'll do some prospecting, and they'll download that list and send it over to a client for them to review and kind of approve that process. And then I have to send it back, and then they'll have to filter it out in Pitchbox. So what we've seen people, we've helped a couple of people to streamline that process through Google Sheets. So they'll have an opportunity.
Your favorite, Ryan?
I know. I was gonna say, man.
Yeah. So it's basically it's going into a Google Sheets, and then the client sees that Google Sheet. They don't get access to Pitchbox. They don't see anything else that's happening. They don't even know how they obtain that list. But now they just go in a column B or whatever. They'll say yes, 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 no, 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 and that's when automatically things are happening behind the scenes in Pitchbox. So your next person that's going to handle the outreach, they don't really actually need to communicate with the customer directly, and they're able to just do their work.
Yeah, and for the record, it's not so much that I love Sheets for using it as software. It's more stuff like that. That's kind of the connection piece that just makes it super easy to set stuff up. And man,
just everybody knows how to use Google Sheets.
Yeah,
I think everybody at this point knows how to use Google Sheets.
Yeah, and we start. Like I said. I think our next big step is to us, like how we get, like, Sheets to us is kind of the entry level into what we initially want to sell people, because it's one of those things like fun. Everyone uses it. It's very applicable. But ultimately where we want to be in the next year to 5 years is selling people on this BigQuery solution. That is much more of an enterprise offering. Like I said, the people that's the challenge that we have now that I'm faced with really taking this to market is going to be, number one, most marketers don't know what BigQuery is, how they can even leverage it. So just getting a bunch of content out there about like the power of BigQuery, what it can do for kind of your everyday marketing teams. But really our core focus is going to be on like internal teams that are just working with massive data sets that are, don't know Python, don't know these coding languages that you need to leverage the platform, building relationships with them. And then also just massive agencies, enterprise agencies, like e-commerce focused agencies that, again, same thing. They just have all this data floating around that they're not able to pipe it together. We're just hoping to build a very simple solution for all those problems. And then again, just focus on enterprise. But yeah,
I think the product you're talking about, I think it cures a pain, right? There's truly a pain. Like when you have a lot of data, what do you use? And I'm a database guy, so I'll load my stuff in some kind of a database and run SQL.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know how to do that. Right. So your tool simplifies that process. I can take a shitloads of data and just upload it and be able to massage it.
Yeah. So right now, we're already in market basically, but what we're doing is much more of kind of like a managed software service. David is just kind of like, we've got a small team that he's building. He's training on the different languages needed to use BigQuery. But really it's a lot of hand-holding and consulting right now. Like in the next couple months, it's just going to be consumer facing. We're building like pre-built, what we're calling recipes for people. So it'll be like an audit that you can just pay for to set your site up, just to kind of, again, simplify and just make it kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really need to understand BigQuery, but I understand this audit type thing. But really our goal is to get with organizations and do a lot of customizations, because it's just stupid profitable for us at that point, because the software is doing most of the work. You have that pain point need. You're willing to pay a couple $100,000 for that work to be done, but it's going to cost us, next to nothing to do it. But yeah, that's the challenge too, is that it's a problem. It's a problem because you're working with it, but the amount of people that are actually know it's a problem is very small. And my job is to try and take it to a much broader. We want to be in the next 10 years, 5 years, pushing everyday marketing teams to just using the platform for the reporting, for all their audits, and we build custom recipes for people now too. So if you come to us and you're like, I have this, and this, it needs data from here, here, and here to report on this, and this, and we'll just build that custom and then just sell it as a public facing recipe for everyone as well. So, and that's the plan. So very similar to what you guys have done in terms of getting in with the right people and building relationships with the right people. And then just growing word of mouth, because marketing this is going to be a challenge, just again, because of the lack of understanding for what I didn't even know what BigQuery was until he told me about it and not fully invested in it. So, and I still don't fully understand it because it's just not what I do. So, my challenge is taking that to how do I communicate that to every marketing teams and agencies, that, this is a solution to a lot of their problems that they don't even really know exist yet. But it'll be fun. So anyways.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Play with the product you're building, man. When do we get to play with it?
I mean, right now we're just finishing the marketing site. We're finishing. We just kind of like, I'll cut this part out, but partnered up with Deep Crawl for a lot of stuff, and actually building them a custom solution for their customer. So that's another route that we're taking, is, working with these software companies again that have problems that it's just really not worth for them to invest in fixing, and just kind of using David's skill set to build these like really quick bridges that they can then offer to customers. So right now, I mean, we're just not really in a rush too, because I had with agencies. I don't know if you guys know this, but I left From the Future and basically bought the rights back to run my agency again. We have the blueprint, so we have plenty of cash flow, and it's not a ton of our overhead a month to run this company as is. So we're taking our time with it. We don't really have a rush to get it to market. We're just kind of, again, trying to focus on getting, like, I would rather take a lot more. I would rather take months building the right relationship with the right people, making sure that they love the product, and then after that, then pushing it out. So, I mean, realistically, probably like 6 months to a year until we're like public facing. But I mean, right now, David's working on it full time with, the small customer base that we have, but we're not really in a rush. We don't mind taking a loss on it for the time being. It's just, yeah, I mean, you guys get it, so
building
We
a
did the
better
same
product.
thing with Pitchbox. Yeah.
yeah, it's just, it's our number one priority, but it's also not, we're just not in a rush with it, which is, we're very comfortable with,
Yeah. We moved our launch date probably 3 times.
Yeah.
Before we actually went out, and everyone, in the startup world said, minimal viable product, right? Just get it
Push
out
the
there.
MVP.
Yeah, get it
That's
out
right.
there, get it out there. And it was kind of half baked, and we're like, no,
Yeah.
I think it's not ready. I think it has to be kick-ass.
Yeah. And that's exactly how we feel too, is that it's not that we necessarily need to be perfect, but we want it to be right. Like, what's the point of launching something that's it's not what you want it to be? Like, it just, I would rather pay an extra 50 grand in cost to get it to where it wants to be than push something out that's going to cost us way more. And also too, I mean, our go-to-market, like, the reason why we have the blueprint is because we only sell to agencies. So we're using that as kind of like a feeding ground, learn our processes, learn all of our tools that we have in the blueprint are going to be pushed to BigQuery to recipes. So basically our plan is to be able to market this training, get people comfortable using our tools, our systems, our processes, bought in, and really kind of reliant, for lack of a better term, on what it is that we do. And then it becomes just a natural feeding program into, like, we're just going to feed all those recipes into the blueprint. So, we have a customer base that really loves what we do. So we also don't want to burn that out, because that's kind of, again, going to be, it makes our acquisition a lot easier to just be like, let's just focus on growing the Slack community, right? Just keeping doing stuff like this to just keep providing value to people. And over time, we don't really have to market and sell to them. They're going to bridge the conversation with us through these things, So again, we're not really in a rush. The blueprint is going way better than either of us could have imagined.
Congratulations.
No, thank you, man. I work on it full time, so it's quite a bit of work, but the margins on it is just, it's amazing. We're funded the entire build for the software from the blueprint, which is great. And we have 3 full-time devs in the US. We're not cheap. So yeah, so I mean, it's been going good, and I would much rather just do stuff like this anyways, because it's easy. I enjoy doing it, and it's ultimately building the businesses that we want to. So yeah. You guys got anything else that on your mind that you want to talk about?
Not yet. I'll just say this for, I guess, for all the agencies out there, that I think that companies that make it through this temporary period will come out much stronger. So rather than stepping on the brakes, you should step on the gas. If you have the cash flow, now's the time to outpace your competitors. Especially larger companies are now faced with this dilemma of making sure that their staff is working remotely. They have huge long-term leases for huge offices in big metropolitan areas. For the rest of us who've been careful about cash flow and have a decent runway, I think those agencies that diversify and are smart about cash flow will come out on top. And a lot of things are going to get much cheaper. I think there'll be a lot more people working from home, which means there'll be eventually more content writers, more people wanting to work from home. So cost of resources is going to get lower. I think with some companies running out of cash flow, there will be fewer advertisers on Facebook or other PPC channels, and so the cost of PPC is going to go down. So now is yeah.
I mean, shit. In the last couple of days, our cost per lead, cost per click has gone down by like 66%, which is crazy.
And at the end of the day, the good news for agencies is everybody needs leads.
Yeah.
No leads, no business. So if for those who rely on traffic, whether it's organic or PPC, now's the time to get all that traffic, scoop it up, and grow from it. So yeah, I think I'm very optimistic for at least for all the businesses and agencies who are
I think
smart about it.
I think our industry is fortunate because we're online, right? And thank God the internet doesn't have coronavirus. We're still on here. We're still looking for traffic. We still go to places. If anything, I think that the internet is going to get busier now that a lot more people are at home. And if you're an agency and you lost a client, you're probably not the only one. And if you have a little bit of extra time on your hands, you probably had some projects that you've never had the time to dedicate. Now's a good time to learn a couple things, try new things, launch a new site, learn if you've ever wanted to, dabble a little bit in software development. Now might be a good time. I see a lot of folks are putting out some free tools, some free content in our industry. So I think you should just take advantage of that. And it's temporary. It's hopefully it's not too long, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I'll let you go. It's been a full hour. Appreciate your time. Again,
thank you for having us.
Yeah, anytime. And again, guys, anyone who's serious about doing link outreach, any sort of outreach, really, it's Pitchbox, pitchbox.com. The only outreach tool I use and recommend. Definitely check them out, show them love, and guys, we look forward to seeing that content come out this year.
Thank you, Ryan. It was fun.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye, guys.